Worst hand card? Oh, not the worst hand card. No, I agree. Okay, seems to work. Sorry about this. It's the top 8 semifinals. I want to hide my hand, but my hand's pretty bad though. I mean, the spells are good, but it's a one-lander, so I'm going to mulligan. It's going to be very difficult for me to keep up my style of commentary though, because I like talking about the options that I have available in my hand very in depth, and then I can't really do that now because otherwise it defeats the entire purpose of hiding my hand, right? Did come up with a keepable 6-card hand though. Yeah. Five-colored Tron is what MTG bot is telling me. I'm not sure if Jay's Siri is still on that. I think he plays a variety of decks, at least in leagues. I'll be right back, actually. Well, you would assume Green Prinny had a good reputation, right? And look how that went from MJ. Okay, I'm back. Yeah, this 6 is keepable. And Tron is a hard pairing. I don't want this bolt, especially not against Tron. Bolts are kind of useless against Tron. You'd end up bolting them out in game 1s pretty often, but it only happens after you put some pressure on them with creatures first. MJ got ghosted twice in a row, in 2 weeks in a row, where he was in the top 8. He got ghosted in the quarterfinals and lost, and then he got ghosted in the finals and lost because of it. By Green Prinny and by Nulligan. And yeah, good games, Dressness. Very, very tight games. Yeah, that's pretty good opening by my opponent. The potential for early Tron here and the Prophetic Prism to go with it, so they're not color screwed at the same time. Let's crack this and look for like a Glintark or something. Failed to find one. Yeah, I think I'm in trouble here. My sideboard makes the matchup a lot better, and even in the main deck we have some tools. But yeah, the matchup is difficult. And I don't currently have a lot of pressure. As you can see, only this one Thraben Inspector beating down, and a lot of bad cards for the matchup in my hand. So like a single Pulse of Marasa or something could easily get them out of range of burn, and then with only one Thraben Inspector beating down, it's difficult for me to really put too much pressure on them. They did find another Tron piece, but it wasn't the one that completed Tron for them. That's alright. Not too bad. Yeah, I think I'm willing to run this into Condescend. The scrying is pretty useful to my opponent, but at least they don't get to cast like a Mystical Teachings or something here at end of turn if I make them spend a counter. Terminate, sure. I think it's pretty questionable to have Terminate over Doomblade, but it does deal with Angler. Just the main reason to run it. I think these decks usually have like one Terminate as a tutor target. But it's pretty sketchy on the mana because it doesn't really go well with like a bunch of colorless sources and a little bit of Prophetic Prism to fix it all. Pretty interesting draw. My opponent has not been doing much. They don't even have like a Forbidden Alchemy or something to dig for their Tron piece at end of turn, so kind of just sitting here doing nothing, keeping reactive mana open, but then they also didn't really counter any of what I did. So interested to see what they have in hand. They could have like a Pulse of Murasa or something that they currently don't have a target for yet. But yeah, I don't really have much pressure here. So far away from winning the game. And likely they will soon just like mystical teachings for alchemy, then like alchemy for the land drop that they need, start running out more drifters, all that. Place 2 Terminate is possible. The little Thraben Inspector is trying to go the distance, only 6 more turns until they get there. What the hell is in my opponent's hand though? What the hell? A lot of lands apparently, but not the Tron ones. Prophetic Prisms, sure. Yeah. What a strange game. Well, this life gain land made it so I have to attack 7 times now with these Thraben Inspectors instead of 6. They seem to just be Grixis and not even like any green, but I can't imagine that, right? They might just be 4 color. Yeah, this game one of the semifinals. Very strange. No, now they have drawn. Now the action begins. Rolling Thunder. Okay. Yeah, you killed my Thraben Inspectors. That's unfortunate. I think it doesn't get much better for me than this spot, so... How much mana do they have available? 3, 4, 5, 8. Yeah, I think I just have to go for it. Turn 9 Tron, yeah, so lucky. Thoughts on second Galvanic Blast? No, don't like that. Thoughts on third Galvanic Blast? Smart. Yes! Yes! Still had all these! Still had all these! Thoughts on fourth Galvanic Blast? So many burn spells. Yeah, I was sitting on 4 Galvanic Blast, trying to get them to 12 so that I can beat a counter. And then he came up with Tron like right on the turn before I was willing to go for it. And I was like, no, now he has like twice as much mana available to fight a counter war. Oh my god, maybe I should have gone for it a turn earlier. But like all these gain lands, like he constantly went to like from 12 to 13 and from 13 to 14 and all that. And I kept, like, I wanted it so that like 3 of my Galvanic Blasts are lethal and the 4th one can get countered. And then he kept gaining life, and I was like, no, god damn it, please stay at 12, please just die. And then the Tron comes down. I'm like, no, now he can mystical teachings for Pulse of Miraza or something and get out of range entirely. But luckily enough, I still got there. So that was kind of sweet. And then my draw step for the turn was the lightning bolt that I previously didn't have. So that took it so I could take him from 11 to 8, and then 2 of my burn spells were already lethal instead of needing to resolve 3. These are coming in, Prismatic Strands are coming out, Journeys are probably coming out. This seems to be like a Denrovatron Grixis list with like maybe not even any green, maybe just Pulse of Murasa, Electricity definitely coming out, Relic definitely coming in. And then these core sanctifiers are kind of medium, like on the edge of being playable, and I think I don't have enough space for them in the deck right now. I would rather cut like another lightning bolt and make room and be as threat dense as possible. I mean, these are more threatening than lightning bolts maybe, but they also don't have particularly great targets. Seems alright. I could see playing these over some extra bolts. Maybe 1 over 1 bolt or something. Sure. Ulamox Crusher. I don't really want chat to be helping me either. But yeah, Ulamox Crusher is annoying for sure. Journey is good against Ulamox Crusher. The downside is then you have Journey on the board and they can Denrova Horror your journeys. Yeah, Palace Sentinels is amazing against Tron. It's my best card in the matchup for sure. Okay, this hand is very good. Keep it on 7. Yeah, they have like very few creatures and they're trying to out-control you with spells. So if you become the Monarch, it's very difficult for them to take it back. They're even boarding in like Throne of the Black Rose in their own deck sometimes, just so that they have something to take the Monarch back with. Kind of interesting what I follow up with here. Probably just want to play this bounce land instead of having more open mana or anything. And yeah, their creatures are all super expensive as well, so it's very difficult for them to take Monarch. Yeah, this is pretty awkward. Maybe I shouldn't have done that. Maybe I should have played a different land last turn, because now my sequencing is kind of messed up. Yeah, I think I'll just crack the clue this turn because of it. Look to set up Monarch for next turn potentially. And my opponent doesn't get to use their open mana here all that well. They only had 2 mana available if they filter into blue, so can't really Forbidden Alchemy or anything here. And I did not play into my opponent's Prohibit, so pretty awkward usage of mana for my opponent. Though they did get some time because I didn't play it particularly aggressively. Yeah, that was what I was expecting, and I was intending to counter back. This opens me up a little bit to my opponent just casting Mole Drifter, but I think I have to make some aggressive moves happen, otherwise I give my opponent too much time as well. Hope I don't get Mole Drifted here, now that I'm tapped out. Flex stones. Okay, no Mole Drifter. So either my opponent just doesn't have one, or they value keeping counter mana open for what I can do on my turn. Both of which are reasonable concerns. And this card's amazing, so you know which one is coming. The Faithless Looting. Interesting. Yeah, kind of a close call here on what I want to discard. Definitely discarding one excess land, and then whether I want to hold on to one extra land to make my next turn more smooth, or discard one of the weaker spells in my hand is kind of close. Stelmeria, thank you for your follow. Okay, I guess I'll discard both of the lands. Wait, what? Oh no. What? I don't know. I was confused. Yeah, let's run this out. Force my opponent to have a counter, otherwise they're super screwed. And they can't Teachings for a counter here. Condescend is pretty great for them. I think it was alright putting them to the test, because otherwise they just get to freely Teachings and search up like another Prohibit or a Condescend or something. Allowing my opponent to scry here right away is unfortunate though. 3 of a kind. He wins a lot of mana as soon as he finds the other 2. Other than that, not winning much. Doomblade. That's bad for me as well. No, not the motor. No. Okay, things are getting out of control here. This is exactly everything that I did not want to see. They killed my threat. They cast the most backbreaking card advantage card in the matchup that allows them to keep up with me. Want to keep it off of the board before any flicker shenanigans happen, I think. And yeah, they killed my threat, they countered my Monarch, and they cast a Mole Drifter that was basically the worst turn cycle I've ever seen, from my perspective. Bouncing this instead of the Prism, so now I can run out the Glinthawk as well and bounce the Prism. Fourth of a kind, yeah, I'm happy about that. 4 Urza's Tower, not that threatening of a mana base. Also nice mana base to be casting Terminate with, right? Takes exactly my opponent's entire ability to produce mana to cast a single Terminate. What Glinthawk? Yeah, this Glinthawk. Lightning Bolt, my Skyfisher, you know. Wait, no. This one they know about. See if they want to counter it. Apparently not. Play this so I can crack both the clues. Opponent's still slowly getting whittled down by these small creatures that they... Is this matchup D's? It's kind of bad. I mean, it used to be kind of bad and it got better with the Monarch. I haven't lost it since the Monarch came out. but it still feels kind of bad. It just feels like you should be losing and then you end up winning it anyways. No, not crop rotation. Ah, that's awful for me. Because now they do have Tron available. Sure. Now their 4 of a kind turned into a functioning mana base all of a sudden. That sucks for me. Those were not the worst cards to draw, though. Not the worst cards I've ever seen. And more ship damage coming in. So there is exclude. Sucks. Okay. Thoughts on Reaping the Graves? For Palace Sentinels. Okay, trigger. Skyfisher. Could have done this during my opponent's turn to just get like Skyfisher Sentinels, but I got slightly greedy and then I got rewarded by drawing the extra Sentinels off of the clue so that I can first bait out my opponent's counter and then get both of the Sentinels back to my hand. Yeah, exactly, Duzel. I kind of ran into exclude on purpose because I was setting up the Reaping the Graves, but I didn't even get all 4 of my creatures, so it was slightly unfortunate. If I had another spell that I could cast on my own turn too. Yeah, now I'm getting wrecked by all these Moldrifters, and I guess Mnemonic will get back exclude, yeah. Yeah, things are getting out of control. This is the type of game that my deck is not set up to win, and the reason that this matchup is not that great, because when they do have the huge mana advantage, they can crush you pretty hard. And my opponent has exclude open now. I guess I have to run these out still. Yeah, I mean sometimes a little bit before turn 9, but rushing Tron is not that important for the deck, for the control versions. Mono green Tron really needs Tron early, but that's a weaker Tron version actually. I think I wanted to hold on to my second Palace Sentinels instead of just donating the Monarch to my opponent. Because now I have the Skyfisher on the board that still does okay against my opponent's Moldrifter, and they have to spend a removal spell here. I didn't want to put the Monarch into play when they can just attack me with Moldrifter. Theoretically I could have held the Glinthawk back on defense, but that also seemed not that great. If I have to sack my relic, that does set up like flicker shenanigans for my opponent in the future, but I think I can't just let them get a free exclude. So I think I will. They can respond with flicker and then I'm super dead, but I guess that was always going to happen. If they let my relic resolve and then start flickering stuff afterwards, I'm also super screwed, so. Who really cares? Okay, I did manage to get rid of their graveyard without them flickering something, so there's some hope. Because that means they don't have a ghostly flicker in hand, and they likely don't have a mystical teachings in hand, otherwise they could have teachings for ghostly flicker, considering they have this much mana available. Still not the greatest spot to face down 2 Mnemonic Walls, so anytime they draw flicker or a card that finds flicker, they can immediately start going off with these and recur infinite spells. Oh, they did have teachings. Okay, that's kind of surprising to me that my opponent had teachings but didn't want to flicker there. They can still get the flicker here, but I assume now they want to get something else first. Get like an exclude or a condescend or something. They got condescend, yeah. For 6, I guess, or for 6, yeah. I only have 5 available, so let's sack this clue. Oh man, this is so much less fun if you don't get to see me top decking. I'm still in huge trouble here, but I think I had to do this. Do I still have Bodruka Bog? I do, right? I think I'll Vial. See if I can draw it, because then if I get rid of their mystical teachings, it's... Okay, did not. It's just amazing, because now they can get Flicker and I probably just lose on the spot, because they have infinite Condescends and infinite Lightning Bolts. So I'm not even certain if forcing this through with the Pyroblast was good, but I think I had no other choice. Like, I cracked the clue and drew Pyroblast, which is why I was so amused by all of this. It's a lot more fun when you can see. Maybe I should just stream the finals without an overlay. This is the more sensible thing to do. Oh, they cut teachings for teachings. Yeah, I'm super dead. My draw was just way too slow, and they managed to counter all of my Monarch stuff, and I guess more Raza for more Drifter, and then start flickering later, sure. Yeah, the pulls of Maraza also makes it so that they're less likely to get burned out. Still leaves them a little bit vulnerable to graveyard hate now if I can get rid of their mystical teachings and they didn't make sure that they find the flicker. I exiled my own what's it called, faithless looting with my Relic of Progenesis. That's a little awkward. Yeah. Kind of a free attack, it's not blocking anything. Don't think it has any consequences though. Yeah, I think my opponent played this kind of loosely, playing into Bodruka Bog. Sure, because they made it so that my Bodruka Bog would have gotten their only teachings, and then the teachings can no longer get flicker, and I can potentially cut them off of that lock so that they might be able to lose the long game, basically. Okay. No attacks for you, because I can't deal with it otherwise. Oh, there's the Ulamog's Crusher. That's pretty bad for me. I mean, I guess I have some lands to spare for now. Still have teachings here, right? Seems strange that they wouldn't just use that on their turn while I was kind of tapped out to get their flicker and make sure that resolves. So much velocity, so little progress being made. I want my Reaping the Graves back, though. It was pretty amazing in the spot where I cast it, getting double Palace Sentinels and Skyfisher. But in hindsight, it kind of ended up backfiring. That it only got 3 cards when I needed it to get like 5 or something. Impulse. Once again behind on time, but that's business as usual. Also, glad that so many people are still watching despite me hiding my hand. Appreciate all of you for sticking around. Okay, I can Pyroblast this, and then my opponent might be cut off of training draw spells. That's pretty great for me, if it does end up happening. That's why I was so skeptical of them, like, going teachings for teachings and then not getting the flicker right away. Okay, so goodbye lands. And jump blocking with Inspector, I think. Can't really take this down in combat right now. And yeah, having boarded out my journey makes this very difficult to beat, but I guess that makes sense that they have this and then are willing to cast their Mystical Teaching into my Pyroblast. I wonder if they even have the Rover Horror. They have to, right? Ah, god damn it, that's the 4th Muldrifter? For real? I mean, they are also through 2/3 of their library, so it's not unreasonable, but still very painful for me that they get to chain these and then have complete control over the board. Game is pretty over. Hand is also not that great. I really need Faithless Looting once again. This provides some decent fodder for the Annihilator trigger, but that's not really where I want to be. Yeah, the matchup is kind of a pain, but there's nothing I can do about that. I would prefer to be playing a different matchup as well. Yeah, it's 3 AM here as well, so also not much I can do about that. So there's Flicker finally. Okay, what are they flickering? Double wall. Yeah, that's bad for me. That's a bit of an understatement. I can just not win. No, nothing they can get I can beat. I have double lightning bolt, but I can only take one of the walls down, and then they get Pulse of Marasa back and recur the second wall, so it's just game over. Yeah, that was kind of frustrating, but my draw was just way too slow, not putting enough pressure on my opponent early on, and then they got to develop towards Tron. Yeah, I think my sideboarding was okay. Journey to Nowhere is good against the Ulamog's Crusher, but yeah, it might be better than the Warned Core Sanctifier, but I don't want too many of them, because like both Mnemonic Wall and Moldrifter have already generated value once they're on the board, so I don't want to be fighting that fight with Journey. Okay, I'll try again. This time I get to be on the play. Maybe that improves my chances of resolving Palace Sentinels. And yeah, I could have been slightly greedier with the Reaping the Graves, but it was difficult when my hand was otherwise not doing anything, so I think getting 3 creatures back and constantly keeping up the pressure was alright. If I had found a Bojuka Bog when my opponent was sitting with Mustika Teachings in the graveyard, I had a reasonable chance of cutting them off of their chain of draw spells. Also, if my opponent had drawn like a few less small drifters in the turns where they were out of draw spells, could have gone better as well. It's semifinals at the moment. I think this is a keep, but it's very mediocre. Not a fan of my hand. I mean, that doesn't say much to you, but thank you. Yeah, matchup's rough, but I hope I can still get there. I think I'm cycling this. Yeah, very happy that I cycled it now. And let's see what this Prophetic Prism has to offer for me. Hope I don't get Gorilla Shaman with this mana base. That would be pretty awkward. Not that it really fits into Tron. Usually they play different types of artifact hate or just no artifact hate because they go over the top of affinity anyways. So they don't really need to be dirtling around with Gorilla Shamans, but like right here it would just be lights out. Can use this bounce land to slightly mitigate that risk. Though now my bounce land can also be bounced by like a capsize or something if my opponent has that. I haven't seen one so far. I assume they just don't have one, because it's kind of a dirtly card as well. No, why do I say words? Why? I mean, we got rid of it entirely, but now my opponent's kind of on the play, and I'm not putting nearly as much pressure on them anymore. That is pretty awful for me. I'm discarding to hand size as well. That was a beating. Guess it's time to part ways with this faithless looting. Flaco Javier, thank you for your follow. More Drifter to presumably make some land drops. Okay, they found an Urzer's tower. That's probably the worst thing that can happen to me. Looks like Lightning Bolt. Yeah, Boros Garrison getting capsized was a huge blowout. Now if they deal with this, they can crop rotation as well, yeah. Not sure why you would necessarily crop rotation now, unless you have another Prophetic Prism, that makes sense. But yeah, it was a huge setback. Turn 4 Tron, yeah. Feels bad, man. Come in, we are close. Thank you for your follow. I think I have to replay the bounce land and just hope there's no like Din Rover Horror or anything happening, because I can't really deal with that. Haven't seen one of those yet so far in the match, but I assume my opponent plays one or two. What did they return? Muldrifter off of the Haunted Fengraph. Yeah, that's a pretty good draw. I guess they're discarding to hand size as well. But yeah, now they are in this state of the game where they have the huge mana advantage over me. So it becomes difficult to win from here. I guess YOLO. Need some card flow. They get to steal it, but then I hopefully get to steal it back. Unless they like Rolling Thunder away my board or something. And in those cases I'm in trouble anyway, so just make like a high risk line of play that can potentially work out for me. Did not work out for me. Completely backfired. Yeah, pretty dead. I guess there goes my Tron winning streak, but I did say that I had a winning streak, but I still felt the matchup was bad. So not like I didn't expect this to happen. But yeah, without the capsize on the bounce land, I just had no alternative land drop though, so I then can't really blame myself. It was just unfortunate that my opponent had their one of capsize in their hand on turn 3 without having to tutor for it. Like, if they mystical teachings for capsize, that's a huge tempo loss, so the tempo loss of my land getting bounced would have not been nearly as bad. Yeah, I mean, I don't hate it, I just think it's not a particularly good deck, but it is good in this matchup. Exclude. I'll try to counter that. Have a little bit of a semblance of a board presence here. Try and pressure my opponent. Though, like, they are the Monarch now. Whenever that happens, your deck is super screwed, because, like, none of your opponents can really beat the Monarch, but also my deck is incredibly bad at beating the Monarch, so if I accidentally donate it to my opponent, that's usually game over, as we saw in the round 6 or something. The best and worst matchups. Like, anything trying to cast small creatures is really good, like Stumpy, Goblins. Like, I think Blue-Red Delver is actually pretty good with my version, though it's a little bit closer. And just, you have solid game against everything, and then the bad matchups are like Boggles, Tron, and yeah. Elves is pretty good. Capsize with buyback, well, yeah, I'm pretty fucked here. Pretty damn fucked. Not even sure what I can do, because they have like huge mana advantage, and they can like capsize their mnemonic wall constantly to lock me out of the game. Those were not the draws I was looking for either. And like recasting Glinthawks and Bounce lands that both set me back on tempo, it's not really a profitable thing to be doing when my opponent has capsized with buyback going. Man, my draw sucks, but I guess that's how the matchup goes. You have like a good half of the deck that is like all Palace Sentinels and Pyroblasts, and if you draw that good half, then your opponent can get wrecked sometimes, but then if you draw like too many lands, removal spells, low impact creatures, and like too many of these cyclers, so you're not putting pressure on your opponent, then it feels pretty miserable as well. Was trying to assemble some kind of burn kill, but I'm so far away from even doing that. Even if I draw the perfect card, I can't do it yet. And now I get further and further away from even being able to cast my burn, because my opponent keeps capsizing me. Okay. Journey to Nowhere. Perfect against the Mnemonic Wall Moldrifter deck. Still think I can do this, because they don't have anything worthy of recurring, and if they target this with their capsize, at least it keeps my bounce land around for a turn or something. Yeah, playing real fires doesn't really help, especially if they have Rolling Thunder in their deck. Sometimes you can like time out the versions that don't have Rolling Thunder, but my opponent can just like draw half the deck and then deal 20 to me in a turn. And yeah, I still prefer to just commentate and take my time, and I usually don't lose on time. Okay, they get their more money, so I don't really mind all that much. But yeah, this game would have been lost with or without time. Like, they're killing me in time, and also, even if I had 100 minutes on my clock, I would still not be winning this game in any way. So that's not really the issue here. The game kind of ended when my opponent had capsize on turn 3. Whoa, I got to convince Christian of playing a real deck instead of Boggles. That's good news. I guess see you next week then. Okay, time for the hand card to come down. I'm dead. Still had all these burn spells, but not nearly enough to kill my opponent. And yeah. GG's to J-Series. Matchup is a little bit rough if you don't get to like beat the Monarch and keep it. Here I had like games where my Monarch kept getting countered in game 1 and I guess game 2. Yeah, I won game 1 in game 2, and then this game I had to go for a desperate Monarch attempt and my opponent just managed to steal it. So yeah, my goal was to find the third Galvanic Blast and then maybe get there, and then my opponent went from 15 to 16 playing the Swiftwater Cliffs, so that was already destroying my dreams because I needed an extra burn spell, and then also my doorsteps were like bounce land, mountain, bounce. I guess one of them was bounce to my hand, but like bounce land, mountain, journey were actually my doorsteps, so I wasn't even getting anywhere close. Yeah, the 4 Galvanic Blast would have gotten me there again. But yeah, good games. And now J-Series against Methodical.